Good evening and welcome to the Brosis YouTube channel. This is the KCJC Sports Talk. I'm your host, Ken Connell, and my co-host is.
You will, John JC Campbell, live and direct from Kingston, Jamaica. Yes, sir.
So, John, we're on our own today. We like to be on our own sometimes because we like to chatter. Because of course this is a talk show. But we see that cricket is getting out of the spotlight right now. So let's discuss a little bit of cricket before we move on to anything else. I want you to go ahead and tell me what you have on cricket so far.
Boy, cricket is always interesting, and I think it holds a special place, certainly in my heart, and I think I speak for the wider Caribbean as well,
Mhm.
given the historical relevance of cricket. But one of the things that I realize is happening, apart from the fact that the West Indies team, there's an upsurge in terms of great performances, from
Yeah,
all the players,
I
amazingly
agree.
so, which is we're all thankful for. We certainly hope they can continue continue that trend, and so on. But one of the things that I realize now, and what is happening, is that it's a time of the year when there's a little tussle for leadership again. There's
Mhm.
election is coming around for the president of the West Indies the cricket board, Cricket West Indies, and already there's some little tussling going on, and people are being disgruntled about what's happening with the West Indies cricket in terms of the finances and so on.
Okay.
So again, there is an issue there, and just like the football, I'm sure we'll talk about football later. But the issue of player remuneration and team agreement and so on keeps rearing its ugly head
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
threatens to derail, I say, threatens to derail what's happening, this positive trend that we're experiencing. I don't know
Yeah.
what's happening. I don't know if it's a Caribbean thing or what. But that's our reality right now.
Yep. Brathwaite, who is the new captain who took over from Holder, he said he was pleased with the performance, even though they didn't get the result they were looking for because both test matches were drawn. But he said that he's very pleased with the performance. I've been following the cricket, and I have to agree with him that I've seen some improvement. I just still have a problem with the consistency of certain players. Not so much like Brathwaite and Cornwall and some of the other guys because they've been doing very well. I think Cornwall hit at least a half a century in all of the Test series. I mean, in every inning. And they set like I think for the first test it was 335 runs for Sri Lanka to beat. And then in the last test, it was 377 runs, I think. And yet still they were not able to put any dent in the Sri Lanka 11 so that they could win the test. So some of what Brathwaite was saying, which I'm not very quite clear about it because I'm not familiar with preparation, the wickets and so forth. So he kind of blamed it on the preparation of the wicket in the West Indies and said that if the wicket was prepared better, then the result would totally be different. But he
Yeah,
still is pleased with the performance.
yeah. I heard that talk, and sometimes the question has to be asked: is this just negligence on the part of the people who prepare the cricket pitch, or is it ignorance? A lack of understanding of how to prepare a pitch. I don't want to believe that it's because we don't know how to prepare a pitch. Not after what? How many years of West Indies cricket? So I want to believe it's bordering on negligence. Because if you go to India, when you go to Indian places, the pitches are prepared to satisfy
Hmm.
their bowlers.
Exactly.
They're into spin, and Sri Lanka, they are spinners. The wicket, the pitch is designed to absorb and to facilitate that kind of bowling. So I'm hard pressed to understand why that. But it's something that's worth investigating. But as you spoke about Brathwaite, let me just say that I'm also pleased not just with his captaincy and the level of maturity that he shows, but the fact that he has now been called to play professional cricket in England.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they say, hey, this man looks
cricket.
Yeah, Gloucestershire. I hope I pronounced it correctly.
Yeah, you got it. Gloucestershire. Yeah, it's a county.
He been called. So that to me is a positive thing, and I think which can also motivate, you know, the incoming younger cricketers looking on. It's professional cricket. I remember that cricket in England was at one stage in our history was the real training ground for our talented cricketers. You know, that is where they hone their skills. That is where they perfected their art.
Exactly.
That is, and in fact, England, when they realized that we were beating them at their game, they abandoned that program. Said, no, we're not taking no more Caribbean people. Only 2, you know, because we're getting too good.
Yeah, but again, with the ground preparation, you know, considering the fact that we're just rebounding from where we were, so to speak, I think we should have ensured that we pull out all stops, every single stop. And I don't know how much they were actually breeding good groundsmen, so to speak. But I think that, you know, you look for somebody who knows what they're doing, and when that person is getting close to retirement, then you try to find somebody else to fit in the space, you know. So you always have a safety net just in case, but you always want to make sure that that is priority, that you prepare the pitch properly to suit your.
So therefore, isn't that what you call successive planning? Isn't that planning for the future? So yes. Wouldn't you expect that this would have been a part of the organizational strategies and plans for West Indies cricket? In fact, for all the territorial boards, wouldn't you feel that this should be the thing that is done?
Definitely.
You know what?
And we're gonna dig deeply into something that you mentioned earlier on. You mentioned the word leadership, you know, and you know, I'm very critical about the definition of leadership to most people, especially in the Caribbean region. I see a lot of people who take on the role of managers, but I'm not quite sure they fit the definition of a leader. You know, a leader would make sure that all of these things are in place, no matter how minor they are. You know, and also be able to deal with something that you actually do not see on a daily basis, you know, something that pop up, you know, how to solve it right away. And so you got to be sharp on what you're doing. Yeah. You know, we're going to do our show, we prepare for our show, and we'll make sure that we're sharp on what we're talking about. You know, we shouldn't have to be dealing with situations like this, but you know, it's showing its ugly head. You're seeing it every time. How could you lose a test match when you put up 335 runs, right? 77, good amount of run, but yet still you drew both of them, and then you come and you're saying that the problem was the pitch.
But let me say, I mean, you can always, you know what I mean, they say bad workmen blame the tools. I know that kind of talk. but let me just say though that, you know, we tend sometimes to forget that the match is being played by 2 competent teams.
Yes.
Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, they didn't come to lose, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not mediocre teams anymore, you know. Especially given where we are in terms of our, you know, we're, you know, at the bottom, I don't want to say the bottom levels, but near to the, you know, just below average there in terms of the structure. But they're competent teams and they can play cricket.
Yeah.
So whilst we could have and should have won the game, you know, I won't say, well, you know, because of this or because of that. I'm saying that they came to win as well. So let us respect that and so on. The fact is that I am happy with the performance exactly. That we displayed.
Exactly. And
some good positive things have come out of that. So I'm happy for that, you know.
And in conclusion, Brathwaite is leading by example, because he was I think he was the last wicket lost in the first test. He made like 126 runs, and he did very well in the second test also. So he is leading by you know, by example. You know, I should say he's leading by example. Of course, you want to see that from your leader, and that should rub off on some of the other players below. And you know, like we mentioned Cornwall before, and some of the other guys, they've been doing very well. We just need to kind of plug the hole in the middle where we always be losing a lot of wicket after one wicket fall. Like if the opening batsmen don't do well, then the next two wickets is going down cheap. We need to find a way to solve that. There has to be a reason why that is happening.
Yeah, I could never understand that about cricket. I could never understand it.
But we're gonna definitely leave football for last because we got so much to discuss on football, which is the main thing we really want to talk about is the situation with the JFF on the players.
Oh Lord.
We have to talk, so that's gonna be our main thing. But I just want to touch on some of what's going on in outdoor track and field. I don't know if you're aware of it, but again, my guy Dean Thomas, the guy I picked to win the NCAA, who won in the hurdles. He's outdoor and he have a world leading time of 13.22 seconds in the hurdles. And we got to remember that we have to remember that this guy is fairly, he's a fairly young guy doing so well. I think he's like 23 years old. And also, we got to remember that he is also the one who is currently the world under 20, champion. And second, the person who placed second in that race was Brenton Senior. From which school you think? Rossi's High School.
That's so.
Yeah, Rossi's High School. So the Rossi's High School athletes are definitely doing very good.
That's fun. Yes, which is
here in America. With a personal best of 13.54. And Kimber Nelson also ran, and she came in first also for her first sport outdoor meet. So again, they continue to do very well outdoor. They placed Kivona Davis with international women, and I think she came in fourth with a time of 22.93 in the 200 meters. I don't know the reason for that, why she was placed with the international women as opposed to fellow college athletes. I don't want to even question that. There has to be a reason for that. But I'm just want to say that, our athletes continue to do very well. And just this morning, I was talking to, one of these stats guys who like to talk about stats. And me and Craig was beating up on him, telling him how good Rossi is doing now. When he really as it relates to track and field. So, I'm proud to be a part of this Brosis organization. And hopefully we can continue to do things that's going to benefit the organization and in turn benefit Rossi's High School and surrounding areas in Hanover.
And as you talk about that, it makes you wonder just how much more talent, resides in that part of the island, in Rossi.
I know
how much more talent we have there that we have not yet discovered, that still needs to be brushed off and put forward. It just makes you wonder, if we had a strength facility down there where we could build our athletes from first form or from seventh grade or whatever you call it, and right through. Can you imagine?
You see, what happened, that's another thing again. You have to be able to, and a lot of us don't do that. We watch sports for entertainment, but we don't watch sports and evaluate what's going on. You have to be able to do that. That's one of the reasons why you have people like Mills, who is such a good coach. Mills wasn't an athlete, a track and field athlete, but he's able to sit down and watch athletes run and be able to evaluate them and know, okay, you're going to be.
He can analyze quite well.
We have to be able to do that. I know that when I was at Rossi's High School, I was doing a lot of that. I was looking at athletes and I knew that there were talent there. And I think I mentioned it to you. Most people don't know that because Rossi's was so dominant then in football when I got to Rossi's. But we did very well in track and field also. We went to Kingston when it was separated. It was boys and girls champs. And we used to go to every boys and girls champs. And one year, I think me and Craig calculated it was maybe back in, I think it was 83. We placed in the top 10 with about 7 or 8 athletes. So the talent was always there. It's just a matter of people going in and be able to identify the talent. And that's what the current coach is doing. So I'm looking, Rossi's been dominating Western Champ for a while now. I would say for the past 3 or 4 years.
Oh,
so the talent is definitely there, not only track and field, but also for football is there. You know, for
Yeah.
those international audience, we're talking about soccer, but we're not going to stop calling it football because that's what we know it to be, right? Yeah, I'm really proud of what's happening down there, and again, we have to lift our hats off to the coach and the coaching staff and everybody who is involved in putting the program together. You know,
Although I think I got wind, and I don't know how true this is, but maybe our listeners can verify. But I think I got wind of of a bit of news that said to do with Brosis now, where the upcoming boys and girls championships would have been quite a challenge for them to participate in because of the issue of funding.
okay.
And I was wondering about that. I'm saying, wow. I mean, here's a school that's coming up in terms of track and field, doing well, and might not be able to go to the boys and girls championship because of issues to do with funding. So these things sometimes you have to wonder whether or not in fact, I firmly believe that the past students, the people who have gone through the institution and are now responsible citizens of society, or whatever you want to call it,
Right.
that they have a role to play in ensuring that the institution shines.
Yes.
And I think this is what Brosis is trying to do. And no disrespect to the other organizations that are attached to the school that are doing their bit as well. But I speak of Brosis because they are a more recent organization, and they came in with a bang. They came in with a sense of purpose in terms of what they, a targeted purpose in terms of what they should and want to do, which I think is great. But we shouldn't have, at this day and age, be hearing any issues to do with funding to go to boys champs or boys and girls champions. That is something that we need to be aware of.
Well, see, again, John, we want to put it on the record because we are part of Brosis, and we would hope that the saying goes that closed mouth don't get fed, right? So we would have hoped that somebody at Brosis would reach out to organization like Brosis and ask if it's possible that some of us could take on some sponsorship when something like that happens. You know what I mean? Because that's what we're here for. That's not to say that we're going to be able to do that. And maybe some of the Brosis members right now is biting their lips and saying, who tell you that we can afford to do that? But that's what I believe the organization is there for, to help.
Yeah, well, mind you, it don't have to be, like an immediate thing in terms of that we need money right now or we need funding right now and so on and so forth. But but it's something that we need to put into training, something that we need to really look into. And it might mean coordinating with the other organizations linked to the school. For instance, the Rossi Old Students Association, ROSA. Does it mean coordinating with them towards this thing? And mind you, we don't know if they have approached anybody. They certainly I don't think they have approached Brosis. I don't know. But the fact is that this is an issue that needs to be addressed,
Again, John, that's why I want to touch on this. That's why Colin Miller was such a genius, because we had a sports coordinator, because, sometimes that's too much for the principal. There has to be somebody who is coordinating the thing so that there are strategic provisions made. There has to be strategic provisions made.
But that is an organization then. That is what an organization, an organized body with a purpose should be doing. One to me is one.
Sometimes it's difficult for the principal to do because Colin Miller had passed it off to me. And what I did, I was always proactive. So I don't know if any of these guys will remember, we had a program that we call Net Track, and what Net Track would do, we would do our fundraisers like every week, every Friday. And, it helps to supplement, even though it would not cover the full cost, it helps to supplement the netballers and the track athletes. So That's what needs to be done. Maybe they need to look into, having appointing somebody do this, and so we can have strategic provisions made. And it's not when it's almost the appointed time you're hearing that they might not go. What can
Yeah.
most of us do at that point in time? You know what I mean? We are for Russies. We're not talking down Russies. We are for Russies. And we're just trying to make sure that these kids don't train hard and end up not going to national championship.
Yeah.
That's so demotivating, to be honest with you. People look forward to this. They're trying to get scholarship and everything like that. So, I know as an individual, I would try to do anything in my part to ensure that at least one athlete go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Because
that's the other thing. Maybe you can't take everyone, but at least you can take a select
yes,
team
yes,
or the creme de la creme of your squad. But it shouldn't be that, oh, Rossi's not there because we don't have any funding. No, I don't
right.
know
So
that.
let's work our way into football though, because
Yeah.
last week we were supposed to talk about something, and we talk about the parity that exists in sports nowadays, and we talk about how certain things like um, sports psychologists and so forth, and trainers and masseurs, how they're going to become very important after a while because people are going to try to get a competitive edge. So I want to point out two big things that happened last week in the world of football, soccer for international audience. So Germany lose to Northern Macedonia.
Germany lost to who? Okay.
You
All
know
right.
that
Well, they said the ball is wrong. They said the ball is wrong.
I don't
So
remember hearing about Macedonia. I don't even remember hearing about another Macedonia, to be honest with you. But Germany lost another Macedonia. I maybe need to go and look at world geography a little bit more. And United States of America was knocked out of the Olympic under 23 Olympics under 23. They were knocked out by
Honduras.
Honduras.
Woo.
And again, we're going to talk about the arrogance that we're seeing in sports, and I think this is based on the arrogance of the United States of America team, whereby they believe that we didn't have to bring any players, even though there were barriers of bringing some of these younger players, trying to remember his name, who plays for Chelsea. They could have bought him in. He's under 23. Quite a few players they could have bought in. Somebody who played for, I think this guy played for who? Is it Real Madrid? I can't remember their names right now. But they could have bought them into the side. But I thought United States of America thought it's no big deal. We can still play and we can still win. Football in the CONCACAF region is changing big time. That's why I'm saying again, when we touch on Jamaica, we'll discuss that in more detail. Jamaica has to be very, very careful about thinking that it's Jamaica, Mexico, and United States of America. That's not how it is. There are many teams in the CONCACAF region, including Canada, that's playing extremely well. Honduras playing extremely well. So we have to make sure we put everything in place and be ready for whatever is going on. But John, I want us, before we even touch on what's going on with the JFF, I also want us to touch on football development, because me and you like to talk about it because we believe that this is where the problem is. Last week we mentioned about the Mount Pleasant under 13 team, who has been the national under 13 champion for I think the last 3 years, 3 consecutive years. I hope I'm not wrong, if my memory serves me right. And we talk about the fact that for some reason, we have to focus more on that academic style football, whereby we start the development process from the kids are very young, and we have to take them through, journey through high school, because most of these academy, they start them off at anywhere from 8 to 9 years old, and they take them all the way up to 17 or 18 years old. So I just want to, you add something to this, because I just feel like there's so much that we need to pay attention to. And then when you finish discussing it, I have a question for you that we talked about last week.
But as you mentioned about Mount Pleasant, let me just quickly pause to say that Harbour View Football Club are the most interesting and very organized youth development program over the years. They could have been among the first to really have that. BB Gardner, for instance, came through that, where they started them out at, I don't know, 10 or so, and they, just played until they were 16, and they made the big team, and so on. To me, that is always the best way to go. When you get the kids from a young age, not only are you able to ground them in proper skills and so on, but you also give them a sense of attachment to your club, to your organization. You play for your organization. You give your heart. You play your guts out for the organization. You feel an association, a linkage with your organization. So I have to say, have you had a system going? Mount Pleasant, however, has taken it to a much higher level, a much, much higher level. And what they have there in Mount Pleasant, I'm telling you, in another few years, I don't see a team that could really stand up to them if they continue the way they're doing, the trend that they have here now. Man, these guys have not just footballers, but they have students in school. They have youngsters in classrooms learning the A's and B's and C's and ones and twos and threes, the 3 R's as well. In fact, they had a good pass rate in the last the GSAT, the what we call common entrance.
Right.
They had some good passes in that, and they also had some good passes at the higher CXC level, if I'm not mistaken. So right away, you can see a lot of development, not just in skills per se, but intellectually. And when you have intellectual development and sport development together, you are building a higher caliber player.
Definitely.
A higher caliber player. So, I will support what they're doing, fully support what they're doing. But I guess the bottom line is, how do you fund? How do you sustain such a program? You must have something that generates income. How do you generate income to sustain? Because that is not no easy thing, You have to pay the teachers who teach. You have to pay the coaches. You have to pay the trainers. You have to pay the groundsmen. You have to pay the overheads. It will cost you. How do you sustain that?
Yeah. So I'm glad you touch on that, because that's definitely going to be a part of it. Not just the human resources, but also the financial resources. Where is it going to come from? And of course, we know how Mount Pleasant, how it's financed. It's some dude from Europe. But yeah. So the same question I asked, because I don't think this is new to you. Last week I talked about a question I want to ask you. So we export the realms of players and the national team development, and we kind of piggyback on what we're talking about. And based on, when you look at technical skills, which has to do with the skills that the player must master in order to play or to perform effectively. So you look at technical skill, and we look at tactical skills, right? Which is the ability to read play and so forth. And then we look at physical skills also. You know what that is already, because that's your area. And mental skills, when we look at mental skills, we're thinking about players being able to motivate themselves and have emotional control, have confidence, and so forth. When you look at all of these various skills, have you seen any player from Jamaica going back from 1998 until now? Have you seen any player that you would say is a complete product?
To be honest with you, sometimes the names of players will escape my mind. But what one player that pops up in my mind right now in terms of a good caliber of, of good quality is that, his name is Lowe. He's the son of Anandi Lowe.
Okay, you're talking about Damien Lowe. Damien Lowe.
Well, yes, it could be Damien, but I know he's Lowe. He has displayed some very. I mean, I saw him playing for the national side in a few matches some time ago, and he caught my eyes, and I said, this fellow, he's of good potential. And then shortly thereafter, after a couple of months and so on, he got to go away and play international football. Now, the only reason why those international people would have called him was because they too saw something in him that was most promising. So he stands out as one. There's another fellow, hopefully I can remember his name before the time is out. But he also stands out.
You're talking about, is it Baby Gardner?
No, man. Baby is not. Well, he's a long time. Baby is a long time player.
I said from 98.
He's a recent player. He's playing his trade. He's playing his skills now with a European side as well. But I'll soon remember his name. But he too.
Kamar Lawrence? Is it Kamar Lawrence?
No.
Okay.
I'll soon remember his name. But I think he also played for, if not mistaken, I think he was a Harborview guy as well. But he's an excellent player. And he's a great player. So the point I'm trying to make though is that there are quite a few, a few who fit the description that you're seeking here. Those who are intellectually, or should I say mentally adept, as well as physically prepared for the game of football. And I think there are quite a few of them there. And funny enough, those that I'm thinking of, most of them have been called to play football abroad. They have, as I say, I'm just not getting the names right now. But Lowe, as I said, Lowe stands out. There are a few.
Yeah, but the good thing about it though is that so I talked to Craig, who was on our show after, I think it was after the game. He was on our show, we're talking about it, and he said he didn't see anything from that game. And I had a chance to see the game, and I was talking to our president about it, Troy Malcolm, and I we discussed it. I've seen a lot of,
That last.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of improvement in the side. And one of the things that I saw that I was really pleased with is the spacing on the field. The spacing. Now, we had a problem in reading the situation and being able to make the passes, true passes. So we had a problem in that. The other area that I saw that was a major concern of mine, if you go all the way back to 1998 side, you maybe will agree with me, is the confidence. The confidence level was high. You didn't see guys holding down their head and anything like that when the goal score. They were still confident that they had a chance to come back. The motivation is kind of so. Emotional control. I don't know if you remember Jamaica back in 1998 and in early 2000, how these guys would be cursing each other on the field. All of those things are changing, and it's so important to the game. You got to be mentally tough, and you have to make sure you control your emotions. And I'm seeing where we have developed in those areas. Now, the other areas are areas that can be taught. When you think about the tactical skills and technical skills, those areas can be taught. So what I was worried about is the ones that are more internal. You are the one who has control over it, and they're doing a lot better. So I'm happy to see that for sure, because in order for us to develop to the level that I'm talking about, the finished product, we're going to have to make sure we focus very highly on the mental aspect of the game.
Well, this I mentioned earlier that with the organization that is Mount Pleasant, they are in a very good position to make better the mental preparation of players. Simply because they have them within their fold. They live there, most of them, especially the youngsters. They come there, they are there. I think they even have a boarding facility. So therefore, you're talking about players who will live together, eat together, play together, cry together, laugh together. That's that bond that
and the coaches also.
it's
The
difficult
coaches,
to break a bond like that,
right? The
And
coaches.
can I say though that I remember back in the days when I was helping out with the Brosis team, 80s and so, and Troy and so can probably speak to this some more. But they had camp, they had a little camp thing going on, a camp thing.
Right.
And they would live together and eat together and go to the beach together and train together, play together. And a very intense brotherhood was developed. Right. And I think that is part and parcel of what led them to be champions during the time. Just the mental bond that they had. It was amazing. And I think even today, they are still friends. I think a lot of them are probably still friends today.
Yeah, it's evident in Brosis because a lot of them, they don't just say we're friends, they talk about brotherhood friends.
No, it's a serious thing. Very, very serious thing, man.
Going on Brosis for a while. It's been a while. I think it was there were camps back in like about from 1980 all the way down. So it's been going on for a while.
I don't know if it's still, I don't know that it's still continued, but I remember my time with them, and that was the case. And training in the morning would be like 6 o'clock.
Something that you said that is very important to me about Mount Pleasant. We keep on going back to them because we're talking about the foundation of what we see that can derive from Jamaican football and Jamaican youth. And I listened to the interview of some of these kids. They're very intelligent kids, very intelligent. I don't know if you ever did that, but I've listened to some of the interviews from some of these kids. And that is going to help us tremendously. It's going to help.
Well, again, to me, that is, I think that's the plan, That is part of the preparation of a professional. And I give you an example. When I was also with the Jamaican Netball organization, the group, a part of their training or preparation, they were coaching the girls on how to conduct interviews, how to speak during an interview. Because it's something we take for granted. And sometimes it can be very embarrassing. It's very embarrassing when some people open their mouth and to say things and words just go all over the place and you can't understand a thing what they're saying. And it's embarrassing. A good player but can't talk. And so now they were doing that with the girls. The Mount Pleasant situation is part of that. They are grooming professionals. And it's early days for them, They were going to reap some serious money when those kids have grown up and matured and are now ready to be, for want of a better word, sold. but I don't want to say they were sold. But look at Baby Gardner. Look at Baby Gardner, for instance. He made a lot of money for Harbour View, They got a lot of money because of Baby Gardner being sold to the English side. And that is one player. That was one player. Now, if you have 4 players, 5 players who go to different teams, the man is going to make a bag of money, man.
But that's what I'm saying is that you have to look at the economics behind it too. And I think that, these guys from that started Mount Pleasant, I think they did their research because remember, Jamaicans are naturally gifted with speed gene, naturally gifted with speed gene, and Jamaicans have power. So now you have 2 important characteristics of a good footballer, 2 important areas, speed and power. So now you just got to work on the technical skills and work on, tactical skills.
You have to work on intellect as well.
Huh?
You have to work on intellect.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, the mental and so forth. Which go come in between the tactical skills and the mental skills. So that's that's very important. We know that is going to be very important to them. But one thing I almost forgot that maybe some of the listeners would want to attack me for is the fact that we didn't talk anything about the fact that the UEFA Champion League is going on. And I had a chance to watch. We're at the quarterfinals. I had a chance to watch all the games, and with me and Craig talk about it too after the show, and it's very interesting, very interesting. Um, you know, so we have PSG against Bayern Munich, and so the aggregate is 3-2 in favor of PSG, Paris Saint-Germain. And that game I watched it last night. That game was so competitive. It was played in the snow. It was snow coming down. So yeah, some of the goals were really soft goals, to be honest with you. But I tell you something, man. This guy Mbappe is something else. He attacked from anywhere on the field, and he's dangerous. No matter what. So he was the one who was able to get them over the edge, because after PSG scored 2 goals, then Bayern Munich came in and made some changes and came in and scored 2 consecutive goals. And then so Kylian Mbappe lift them over the edge. So they have a 3-2 aggregate. And my team, Chelsea, of course, Chelsea has a 2-goal aggregate over Porto. So that was their, when I say 2-0, that was Chelsea's home game. That was PSG home game. And on the other side, we have Liverpool went down to Real Madrid, which is actually a little bit of surprise to me with a 3-goal score. I thought it was going to be a little bit tighter than that. And then Borussia Dortmund, they lost to Manchester City, 1-2. All right, no, this is one that can go anyway, to be honest with you. I haven't had a chance to see all of the game, but I saw part of it. And to be honest with you, I think he can go anywhere with a return leg. So, it's very interesting. Again, John, we see a lot of parity. But there's something that stands out in this UEFA Championship League is Tuchel, Thomas Tuchel, the current coach of Chelsea. I have to give this guy so much credit, because I remember last year he coached PSG to the semifinal, and it looks like he's going to coach Chelsea to the semifinal again, because I watched the game against Porto, and Chelsea, for some reason, is playing a totally different type of football from what they were playing earlier on in the season before he came on board. They are manipulating ball possession. One thing they're missing, I think they're missing a true number 9, but they're manipulating ball possession and everything, which is good. In football nowadays, it's very important that you can do that. And they're doing a very good job at that right now. They're controlling play throughout the game. And so I'm expecting to see them do very well, even though not because they're my team, but I'm looking at how they're playing right now. So I just wanted to touch on that. I didn't want us to forget about that. So I have people saying that, how come we didn't talk about that? But we have to touch on the situation that's going on right now with the JFF and the players.
That has been a kind of sore point, up to ongoing sore point, because they are saying now that the negotiations are continuing in terms of the packages and the agreement with with the players. But my question though is, with the CONCACAF Gold Cup looming, and the World Cup qualifiers looming, we do need to settle down with a team.
Yes.
Now, for us to settle down with a team, with a core team, we have to first settle the negotiations and so on. We have to first agree how we're going to treat the players on that make up the team. Now, what I'm seeing here, and I hope I will be wrong, is that if we don't settle these things quickly, the issues quickly, the negotiations quickly and decisively, then you might find that we stand to lose the inputs of the foreign-based players, the players from the English from the England side of things. We're talking about Jamal Lowe, for instance, who plays for Swansea, Ethan Pinnock, who plays I think Brentford Andre Gray, who plays for Watford, and a guy by the name of Leon Moore, who plays for Reading. These guys have expressed a desire to play for the side. But if we can't tidy up our house, if we can't tidy up, what we're doing, then these professionals might well say, boy, I don't think I can bother, which would be a very sad situation, right? We need, Whitmore said he was impressed with them. And no matter what people want to say, that game that they played against the US in Austria, to me, it's a measuring stick, yes. But to me, I don't think it's an important match. I don't view it as any big important match. And we lost 4, but I don't regard it. I don't even feel bad that we lost 4. It's just on the face of things, it's kind of embarrassing. We got 4. But to me, I don't regard it as no big thing.
Let me touch on a positive of something that I was very highly critical on, and that has to do with coaching. And I kind of take a step back as it relates to coaching, because I read an article from former national player Robbie Earle, who is now a football analyst. I forget which channel he's on, but he's always on whenever he comes through Premier League. And he's saying that he's very pleased with the national senior men's football team head coach. He's very pleased with the work that he's doing. And so when I stop and think about what's going on, I tend to take a step back and say, you know what, let me get a little bit more information, because I kind of see some things changing. And so I have to kind of agree with him. Some things that, like I mentioned, the mental aspect of the game, I see some changes. But here is the problem, and I have to be careful, because I just talked to one of my good buddies today, who is in charge of the football situation in Jamaica, not the JFF, but I forget what his title is, but Wendell Downswell. I just spoke with him today. And I have to be very careful, because I don't know if Wendell remember me, what I was in school, but I'm a person who likes to tell it like it is without disrespecting anybody. And so I want him on our show, so I have to be very careful. But here's what I see that's happening with the JFF is, I mentioned before that their integrity is now in question. Their integrity is in question. And I look at the JFF, their eliteness. I mean, they consider themselves this body that when the players are talking to them, you got to know how to talk to me, because we're doing you guys a favor. And I mentioned that before. That's what I see. And I'm saying what I see, from my opinion. Now, when you talk about negotiations should be in-house. It should never be not public. It should never be public, right? Any form of negotiation that involves players, it should never come out in the public. But this was long overdue. Whoever released that tape, what it did was it confirmed a lot of what a lot of us thought about before, that the JFF was this elite organization that nobody can talk to. Because if you listen to Lowe, I listened to that tape over and over, and I listened to Lowe conducting himself like a true professional as a representative of the players. Whilst on the other hand, the people who are supposed to be setting the example, which is the JFF, who is supposed to ensure that they have a special relationship with the players, was asking the guy, do you think this is a party shop and all kind of stuff? And I listened to it, and I'm seeing this high level of, poor leadership, and they're going to say, who is this guy to be talking about us? It is obvious. The tape is right there to prove it, that, when you're doing something like this, the negotiation now become very public. And when you have a negotiation that becomes very public, it is very difficult to reach an agreement, without a doubt. And what is happening right now, it shouldn't have gotten to this point at all. And JFF right now is going to have to do something to make sure they resolve this as soon as possible.
The question you have to ask, though, and I guess people will ask this, is whether or not the players are being unreasonable. in their demands, in terms of what they demand, in terms of
I'm glad you brought it up.
remuneration and so on.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Ask yourself if they're being unreasonable, because let's face it, and it's another thing that tends to bug me sometimes. Let's face it, it requires good money, lots of money to really run a football system effectively.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It requires funding. Now, given, mind you, we're still reeling from the effects of this virus thing, this COVID-19 virus that they call it. We're still in the throes of, in the grip of that situation. And we haven't earned anything much, the JFF that is, from football. We have not hosted any leagues. And that's another point I'm going to mention later on about us not hosting any competition for the past 12 months, 13 months or so, and what the impact that has had on local teams.
There was an article in the paper today, I think it was published today, I didn't get a chance to read it, whereby, they have the Caribbean, whatever, the CONCACAF club.
All right. Right, exactly.
And then I think what is Waterhouse?
There are two teams. Yes, there are two teams that have withdrawn from that.
But they have to drop out.
Yes, Waterhouse has withdrawn from that, and Portmore United, two of our top teams, have both withdrawn from the CONCACAF Club League. No, that I don't know if you realize how really disheartening and how sad that is, Not just
again, John, we go back to what I was saying with Brosis, right? Again, this is what I talk about leadership. There has to be some kind of strategic provisions for things like these. Nobody knew that COVID was going to happen, right? And nobody knew the extent to the damage that COVID was going to cause. But remember, we know that $1 million can't run Jamaica Football Federation, but they got $1 million, I think. That's how much they were supposed to get from FIFA, right? And people are saying, yes, $1 million cannot run the program. I understand that. But that's $1 million that you didn't have. What did you have in provision to supplement what you're getting from FIFA? That's where leadership comes into play.
More importantly,
interviews. I don't know if you're listening to interviews, but the most recent interview that I listened to, let me say, not the most recent, but I listened to one with Simon Preston, I think his name is, with Kemar Lawrence. I don't know if you listened to that interview. And here's what I said before I even listened to that interview. I would have mentioned it last week, in our program if our show wasn't canceled. If I'm going to go look for a job, right? Remember, this is a career for the footballers. If I'm going to go look for a job and I go for a job interview and they ask me what kind of salary I'm expecting, what do you think I'm going to do? You think I'm going to tell them something that's reasonable to them? I'm going to sell myself for what I think I'm worth. Right? It's up to you to say, well, Mr. Connell, we can't pay you that amount, but what we can do, we can pay you a competitive salary to what's out there. You understand what I'm saying, John? So for JFF to come, that's another sign of weak leadership. For them to come and be saying that the guys asked for $7,000 per game, and that's what the issue is. Kemar Lawrence is saying something totally different. Kemar Lawrence said that the starting negotiation, that's the starting amount. He's saying some of the same thing that we discussed last week, that some of these foreign players would, if you know how to deal with them, they would even play for the team for free if you know how to motivate them right. And he's saying the same thing. So the problem right now is not with the players, because the players have the handle right now and JFF have the blade. Because here's what happened. It's becoming very contentious, right? It's becoming very contentious. And if you want to see something put yourself in a retail management situation whereby you have a line of customer and one customer is irate about something, and you, the store manager, don't deal with it in the right way and see what happened. Every single customer that's in that line is going to turn against you, right? What JFF doesn't realize right now is this thing was supposed to be in-house. It becomes public now. And what the players are doing, even if they're not aware of the fact that they're doing it. I'm wondering right now, are the players using the public to help them in their negotiation? Because they're coming out now and
That is
talking about
always a strategy,
exactly,
to get
exactly.
public support. Remember, you will always, the organizers or the organization will always feel pressured by what the public is saying, because that is going to reach in social media. It's going to reach in the print media, all kind of media, and on the road. So, the pressure will be there to conform.
Yeah, and I think the players have legal representative too, which is what I said. We talked about it before, and I said I couldn't understand because I am looking into JFF. I'm telling you the truth. I'm watching what they're doing. They went out after that tape leaked, and they formed a committee to deal with salary negotiation. And if you remember, I said to you, they brought in an independent person, right? And I'm saying, what's the purpose of that independent person? Is it to tell the players that the players don't need to bring in a legal person to negotiate on their behalf? And then I also said, I wonder where the team manager, what side the team manager is on. And Kamar Lawrence was saying that probably the only person that they can talk to at JFF is the team manager. You know what I'm saying? That's real bad. So when you think about it right now, like I said, JFF has the blade and they have to be very careful. Right now, what JFF need to do, I think they need to meet with the players and listen to the players, what they're asking for, at least to bring them back to the table.
Well, I think, as I said, the negotiations are ongoing as we speak. That is
right.
going on. My other concern, when you mentioned about the $1 million that they got to run football, I got it from FIFA, I suspect. It's not so much that it was not enough, but perhaps more importantly, it gives more reason for you to spend it wisely.
Exactly.
You're going to have to be very, very, and this is where management comes in. You have to be very careful now how you spend this money. Because I remember people were disgruntled. The public, again, was disgruntled when they went to play an international game. It was a big international game. And they took with them, a whole plane load of people, of well-wishers and, second and third and fourth vice president and secretary and people who don't need to be there, frankly.
Yeah.
And that is per diem, that is hotel fee, that is money that I think you don't need to be spending, especially when you're not a rich organization. So little things like that, they have to brush up on things like that because people are watching and the people talk about it. Why do you need to carry everybody to watch the team play? To do what?
Right. The players are definitely using some negotiating tactics by getting the public involved, because here Kamar Lawrence came out and said the same thing that you're talking about. He's talking about the delegation that they took with them. The delegation was actually bigger than the coaching staff that would include a masseuse, equipment man.
You don't need to do all of that, man. I think we have to move away from that and be very prudent.
Right.
In terms of how we manage things. You have to be prudent, and I think that is where
you're falling down. All those things are getting the public more and more involved, and then that's why JFF in such a big situation, because
you have to be pragmatic, you got to be prudent, or else you're going to be in trouble, as is the case now. Right. I want to touch on this the fact that Waterhouse and Portmore United have decided to withdraw from the CONCACAF Club League. That is going to be a big dent in our football situation, given that most teams haven't played any competitive. And that's the reason what they cited. They cited the fact that they haven't played any competitive football in about 13 months, you know. So you can't compete. And this is what I want to say now, that when you have a country like a Jamaica, and for want of a better word, it's a developing country, so we don't have a lot of extra monies and disposable monies all around to support football, professional football or football club teams. What is going to happen, you know, in a few years' time, not even a few years' time, very soon, is that the richer countries, the richer club, richer systems are going to move about 2 or 3 paces ahead of the struggling countries like us. One, they can afford to have so-called bubbles within which to train, where they can bring their teams and put them in a hotel. The hotel is right there beside the field. So therefore, they don't have to mix up with John Public. They leave the hotel room and go to the field and play. They leave the field and go back to the hotel room. So they're within their own confines. They call it a bubble. When you can afford to do that until this so-called pandemic passes, you know, you can afford. That means you're going to be leaps ahead of teams or countries that cannot afford to do that, you know, in all sport, not just football now, but certainly in all sport, but let us say football. So therefore, when the virus should have passed and everybody can now go out on the field and play and mix up and so on, you're going to be surprised how far behind you are, you know. And to me, that doesn't argue well for our football, for our sport in general, even track and field, if you want to ask, you know. So it's going to be a very trying situation, you know.
You say you cannot underestimate the value of having Jamaica play at a high level, especially considering the fact that we're trying to qualify for the World Cup in Qatar in 2022.
And the
Gold Cup.
Gold Cup coming
and
up.
The Gold Cup also.
World Cup qualifiers.
So
what a shame would it be if we didn't qualify for the World Cup? It would be a shame.
Right. Any amount of international, whether it be at club level or whatever level, is very valuable to us if we want to qualify for the World Cup in 2022. So we have to pay attention to that. But there is one thing that you forget to mention when we talk about how they disperse fund. I have to mention that too. You know, one thing that Kemar Lawrence mentioned was the fact that the delegates are traveling in first class. You hear that? They travel in first class. And they have some of the players that they claim that they're forced to put them in first class. And they have some players who have more cap, like Kemar Lawrence, he got more cap than the guys from England put together, but yet he travel, you know, in economy, right? Level. Now, if you really care about the federation as executive member, don't you think you would go to economy?
Just to set an example.
You know what I'm saying? So these are the things that we're seeing that we JFF need to pay attention to. Right now, they need to, you know, like I said, that my question to you, John, is do you think the players should play while the negotiation is going on?
The better question is, I think, will the players give up their best whilst the negotiations are ongoing? I will say no. It takes a special player to give up your best. In other words, put aside how much money you're going to be paid and give up your. It takes a special player, a very special individual to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So forget about the money, man. We're gonna play their best. It takes a special player to do that. I don't know. Boy, I don't know.
That's the same thing Kemar Lawrence was talking about. You know, when you listen to these guys, like I said, you have to feel that something is going on, which is not very player friendly. You know what I mean? And when you listen to them, so what I think happened right here is that I think JFF need to get down off of their high horses and need to start thinking, put on their thinking cap.
I don't know. I want to be on a high horse. When you for you to be on a high horse, you have to have money. I don't know if nobody having the money. What kind of high horse?
Yeah, so what they need to do though, I think
Unless it
that,
just false pride.
right, I think that they need to focus more, a lot more on player relationship
Yeah,
and
you need to get
and
more
effective
professional
communication.
and
And effective
sensitive.
communication.
Yeah,
They,
more professional and more good management skills and good foresight, good insight. That is what you want, regardless of money or not.
mhm.
And show respect and talk and negotiate openly with your charges. But I want to touch on something here quickly because since we're on football, that recently FIFA, I don't know if you know, but in football especially now, there have been quite a number of cases of abuse of children in the sport of football. And recently, FIFA made an effort to put forward a system to stem the abuse of children in the sport of football. The proposal is for a kind of regulatory and monitoring, the establishment of a kind of regulatory and monitoring framework to safeguard and protect children in sport. You have some really unscrupulous people out there who are parading themselves as coaches. And remember now, women, girls also play football. And for the most part, the coaches are men, for the most part, male coaches. And what you have been happening, not just Jamaica now, but certainly right across the world, is that some of these male coaches, and especially when it comes down to female players, are, doing some very unscrupulous things. And I don't have to go to gory details. But that has been going on. So what they want to do, they have come to the region, to the Caribbean region, and they have come through CARICOM, in fact, where they are now saying that they want to develop a system to monitor and regulate how youth football, is governed and managed and played here in the region. It's going to reach a stage where integrity checks are being done on coaches. In other words, before you can coach youth football, you must have a clean record.
Mhm.
Or not just clean record, but you must have been specially trained in child protection and safeguarding standards before you can coach youth football. It's going to be in a situation where, or for instance, let's say I'm a coach and I did something unscrupulous with a group of youngsters and I was found out. Sometimes a coach might say, well, let me move from Kingston and go to Trelawney, go coach, because nobody don't know me down there. What is going to happen soon is that before you can coach youth football, they're going to have a register of coaches who are, for want of a better word, clean.
Electronically.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
And if you have a blot against your name, if you have been found to be negligent in terms of how you deal with children, that is going to carry with that blot is going to be carried with you. So people can go on the computer and say, let me check on John Campbell. All right, let me not use John Campbell because he's a good guy. Let me check on let me check on Dean Bartholomew. And they find that Bartholomew had an incident at one point with how he dealt with, how in abusing, he abused that child. You're going to be hard pressed to go anywhere in the region and coach, So some things so FIFA is now leading the charge in that regard.
Yeah, they have that in any I know, let me talk about Illinois because I think it's maybe in most states, but any certification that you do as it relates to coaching, they do a background check on you. And when you go to the schools or any of those institutions, they also do a background check on you. And I think it was 2019, there were two required course that I had to do in order to, the one was performance enhancing drugs and the other one was harassment. You know what I mean?
Child
Not
protection and
not just
safeguarding.
sexual harassment, but harassment in general. That you had to do, that we had to do.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if you don't do it, your name does not
Yeah,
appear on
you can't. You don't get what they call, and they have a name for it now.
name doesn't appear. So even if you're working for a school because the school didn't tell you about the courses, when you go to the state meet, your name will not pop up. So even if you're trying to enter your name to go on the program, your name will not be printed on
And they
the
have a name for that. They have what they call, you get a safe stamp.
right.
A safe stamp. But let me also just for the viewers who might, just to elaborate a little bit, when you talk about abuse in sport, child abuse, it doesn't have to be entirely sexual or in that kind of thing where coaches take advantage of a youngster in that regard. It doesn't have to be that alone, but physical abuse where you overtrain a youngster is considered as abuse now. You give him more than he really can take because of your personal ambition to make a champion, and that is very common in track and field. You just push a kid too much, you overtrain a kid too much. That is one form of abuse. So sexual abuse, physical abuse, and you also have emotional abuse. Emotional abuse where, and I've seen it, where a coach might say to a kid, you run like say, you run like you're pregnant. So you don't do that to a youngster,
Urban abuse.
a young kid. It's are you like you run like a gal picnic? You play like a gal. That is abuse, emotional abuse. Coaches will say, for instance, yeah, man, go and train. You can't make the side anyway, so go and train. You can't make the side anyway because I don't like what you play. You can't make the side. You don't do that. That's psychological abuse. And you, as a coach, you don't even realize how destructive that is to the mind of a kid. So it's little things like that they're saying, not just, as I said, not just sexual, but sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse. All these are forms of abuse. You destroy kids, man. You don't do that, man.
So John, in closing, we got to go back to JFF and the negotiation. It just seemed like there is still a lot more that needs to be done, that's left to be done, and we don't have a lot of time because like we said, that the Gold Cup is coming up, and also the World Cup for 2022 qualifying coming up. So I just feel like the JFF has to find a way to get this negotiation done and find a way also to make sure we maximize the players that we have available right now. A lot of players are indicating that they have interest in playing for Jamaica. To be honest with you, when it comes to players negotiation, we have to look at the Jamaican players, the players that we consider to be Jamaican players. We got to remember that football for them is a career. And there is going to be life after football. But that's where their base is going to be. The base is going to be football. Yeah. So we have to put them in a position that at least after football, they can have a life after football. So that's why I think that I don't buy into saying that if they ask for $7,000 per game is too much. I want to know, can JFF meet them as close as possible to 7,000? Because they deserve it. They deserve it. And that's the whole thing. If you want them to perform, then you have to pay them for what they think they're worth. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to pay them $7,000. But, listen to them with that $7,000. Don't put it out in the paper. That's what they're asking for and going back and forth, shooting bullets at each other. Right now, JFF is not in the position to do that. However, I must say that I'm kind of optimistic based on the public getting involved now that the deal is going to be done. So I just want him to just go ahead, bring the players back to the table because I heard based on what I'm listening to in the interviews, it seems as if those players are saying until you guys are willing to sit down and discuss with us what we're asking for, we are not going to play. So you have to find a way to bring them back to the table, lock up the deal, and make these players play. And moving forward, JFF have to make sure they place major emphasis on, the federation and players relationship. It's non-existent right now. In order for you to be managing a group of people, there has to be a high level of relationship and communication. It does not exist right now.
Yeah,
So
well,
how do you expect to have
let me also quickly, let me also quickly say before we close that I don't know if we all realize, but April the 6th was regarded as the International Day of Sport for Development and Peace. This is of course, by the United Nations, and it's their way of recognizing sport, the role of sport in forging and creating a safe and economically viable society. The power of sport to change the world, the power of sport to change behavior and attitudes, the power of sport to strengthen friendships, as we spoke of earlier, the power of sport to forge social ties and so on. And we know of the impact of COVID-19 on the entire globe. But in spite of that, the value of sport cannot be denied. So the International Day of Sport for Development and Peace, you can Google that, and people can Google it and see exactly what the aims and objectives of this is all about. In praise of sport. Yes, sir.
So when we look at it, then John, to close, when we evaluate the whole thing, really JFF is not the victim. The players are the victim, especially the ones that are in Jamaica. They are the ones who are the victim. So, I'm definitely calling on JFF, the federation, to start promoting, that players relationship and find a way to bring them back to the table. And if they can't do it, then you need to bring, the Ministry of Sports and Entertainment need to get involved, or any other body in Jamaica. I think my guy Bios is in charge of football, the entire football program in Jamaica. Find a way to bring them to the table because we need to get this solved. There is a lot of economic loss to Jamaica if we don't make it to the World Cup. So we have to make sure that we value that the benefit, economic benefit that can come from Jamaica. And you and I know that there's also a social benefit, because look at when Usain Bolt is running in the Olympics, there is no crime in Jamaica. You know what I'm saying? So we know what the benefit on both sides, the socio-economic benefit that this can bring to Jamaica. So it's something important that we need to look into. Don't take it for the surface. Dig deeply down into it and look at the loss to Jamaica if we don't field a team for the World Cup at this time when we have so many international players who are interested in becoming a part of the Jamaican team.
Yep.
All right. So once again, we want to thank all our viewers for being with us, and we thank those of you who are subscribing to the Brosis YouTube channel. We want you to ask you to continue to do the same, and don't forget to also share and make sure you share the program with others so that we can spread the good news about sports education. So once again, good night and mic drop.
Good night, and have a great weekend when it comes.